Good Thursday evening. We are live. It's Thursday night barbecue chat.
Who says it like good Thursday evening? Who says it like that?
I said it like that because I said it like that.
All right, fine.
Well, anyway, so sorry everybody for being a little bit late. As always, there's a little technical difficulties, and they are to be understood for those of us who are technologically challenged. And I am one of those, and our guest is as well, which is fine because technology just moves way too fast for a lot of us. So anyway, so we have a great show tonight. Hopefully we'll have Paul on from Operation Barbecue Relief because they are down in Lake Jackson, Texas, feeding people for the hurricane that went through there. But this guest we have been wanting to have on the show for a long, long time. I know I have. I have for a long time, even when I had the other show. Wanted to have for a long time. As you can see up in their corner, it's a great place for barbecue.
I love it. I love it. Unfortunately, the one by us closed down.
Well, Ryan, it's because you didn't go there enough. Maybe if you went there.
I went there so much, my wife was yelling at me. She's like, I can't take it anymore. And I said, well, I can.
Are you sure that's why she was yelling at you?
Well, no. I'm sure she was yelling at me for some other reasons, but that's all right. We're not going to talk about that. Because this is barbecue.
Yeah, this is
not
Thursday night barbecue.
Relationship negotiations.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Steve Kress. I am the grill department manager over at Wanamakers in lovely, beautiful downtown Downers Grove, Illinois. And it's not really in downtown. It's actually a little bit west of downtown, but it just doesn't sound good saying just west of Downers Grove. And the man sitting next to me, as always, my co-host, the chairman of the board, Barbecue Blackstone and Beer Group, the leader of the griddle battle, all that other good stuff that he will probably get into today. I hope not, because I don't think Dave wants to hear about the griddle battle, but he might. So,
isn't there a Famous Dave's barbecue contest?
Oh, yes, there is.
There could be a Famous Dave's everything. There could be a Famous Dave's griddle battle contest.
There could be if you talk to him nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yes, this gentleman has been in barbecue a long, long time. He's multiple Hall of Famer of multiple different things. And he's one of the OGs, I guess you could say, of barbecue, I guess. I don't want to make him sound like he's ancient, but he goes way back. But let's bring him on, Mr. Dave Anderson, famous Dave Anderson. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Well, I am rocking and rolling, hunky-dory, feeling groovy, setting the world on fire, got a piggy by the tail. If I felt any better, you and I'd be eating some barbecued ribs right now.
Wow.
That was the best 10 seconds of somebody coming in here ever.
Yeah. Well, the most under.
Well, they don't call me famous for nothing. I ain't average, Dave.
Yeah, most people just can't wait to get out of here, Ryan. That's the problem. Dave doesn't know any better yet.
That's all right. Greg says he's also a longtime NBBQA member.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Dave. You do it. Dave, you do a lot of stuff. You're everywhere.
Well, you can't stop a man who won't quit. And if you're going to make things happen, you got to be all over.
You're right. And then not only that,
to give you an idea, I'm working on my 2 million miles up in the air, and my last GMC had 850,000 miles on it.
Oh, jeez, God. I thought I did good when my minivan had 300,000 miles on it. I guess I got some ways to go with this car. So, wow.
Good thing you got a new one.
Yeah, good thing you got a new one. I got to start all over, but I think I can get that 850. Now I got a challenge. So, Dave, you've been doing it a long time. When did it start, and what got you into it?
Yeah, I'm often asked, how I got into barbecue. I can honestly say I didn't get into barbecue more than I was born into it. My dad's a full-blood Choctaw Indian from Idabel, Oklahoma, which is about as far southeast in the corner of Oklahoma as you can get. In fact, if you spit, you're going to spit in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. And so then my mom is from the Lakota tribe in Hayward, Wisconsin, way up north. And a lot of people who know how far down Idabel is in Oklahoma and if they know how far up north Hayward, Wisconsin is, they often wonder, how did some Indian kid ever meet some gal from way up north. Well, the tragic part of this story is both of my parents were ripped from their families and stuck in Indian boarding schools back in the 20s and 30s. And then, I guess if there's a good side to the story, they met at Haskell Institute for Indians in Lawrence, Kansas. And then after the war, my dad married my mom, and they moved up to Chicago because that's where all the jobs were. Now, the one thing about what started this all, my dad was very insistent on having his Southern food, and my mom, being from up north, had no clue. So my dad literally every weekend, almost every other week, would drive my mom down south till she learned how to cook Southern. And I know growing up, we had to have our Southern fried chicken, our homemade biscuits, the honey buttered cornbread, all that good tasting Southern food, plus barbecue. And I can remember as early as 1959 eating rib tips on the south side of Chicago with my dad. So growing up, I always knew my family was different because we knew every black-owned barbecue joint, one of those storefront barbecue joints on the south side of Chicago. And there's probably few people, even in Chicago or America, that knew every black-owned barbecue joint in America. So, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really get into barbecue more than I grew up with it. And I even remember when we had the first charcoal grill on our block way back in the late 50s or early 60s. So that, that's how far back I go.
Wow. What was your favorite barbecue joint then back then? What was the standout at that time?
Well, back then, Lem's was one of them, but then there was Sprague's on Kedzie and Lake Street. They had some of the really hottest ribs, and my dad loved his hot barbecue. And then there was the Rib Palace. You had Leon's, you had Robinson's. Boy, I could go on, tell you about all these storefront barbecue joints. But even with that being said, my dad also knew every street corner on the south side where you'd find some black gentleman with a 55-gallon drum smoking up right on the street corner there. And then they'd take the rack of ribs, roll it up in newspapers, shove it in an old brown paper bag. And, those bring back many, many memories of, I could come home and my dad be home from work, and I'd run up the stairs and see my dad opening up his lunch bucket and pulling out some newspaper wrapped ribs. And when he unwrapped it, you could just smell the hickory aroma, or a lot of ribs that were done back in the day were smoked just with oak. And but it was the burning embers, I think, that really made some really great tasting barbecue. And then you had there was in Logan Square, there was Eddie's Real Pit Ribs. And I can remember back in the 60s, my dad would drive up, and within a block, we'd be rolling down the windows because all over the neighborhood, you could smell the smoke coming out of one of those Chicago aquarium smokers. That's one of the things about that. I think what made Chicago barbecue legendary is that you didn't have any of these offset smokers back then. These Chicago aquarium smokers, you were smoking over live burning wood, and you were a real pit master if you could manage one of these smokers, because when you had that thing loaded up with ribs, rib tips, and chicken briskets, that you had all of that juices just rolling off of your ribs or your briskets or your chicken, and then the juices would land into those smoldering embers and burst into flames, and that juice would go up into the smoke, come back down, fall on your barbecued meats. And boy, I tell you, that was some real good eating back then.
Wow. Well, you know,
It's just
wow.
your
I
description
think-
there is just like making my mouth water.
I think
It's just I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about barbecue like that. That just so descriptive on the juices falling off and hitting the embers and bursting into flavor.
Well, you know who had one?
Sparkly bombs of flavor is what I used to, you should see it. In all of these pit masters had to keep a garden hose right next to the pit because when you got 50 pounds of ribs and 20 pounds of rib tips and I don't know how many tens of pounds of briskets and chickens all on this Chicago aquarium smoker, and all those meat juices are falling into those glowing, burning embers, and then just blowing up and going up into the smoke, and then coming back down on those meats, and then they take these homemade barbecue sauces and slather it on the meats, and then chop it up on an old wooden block with big meat cleavers. You'd hear that boom, chop, 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 chop going all day long. I tell you, you don't find that type of barbecue today with these offset smokers. I take it back. I think some of these Texas pits, that you're smoking over the live fire, and then even in the Chris Lilly and his family, they smoke over live fire. There's still some live fire pits, and to me, that is real barbecue.
Well, you know who has that, Ryan? That aquarium smoker is
Was that Honey?
was Honey Bays. Yeah, Honey
Honey
Bays. They were in Waukegan. Now they're up in Round Lake. Barbecue Johnson. Yeah, we saw one of those. We did a barbecue love tour stop at Honey Bays Barbecue. It was on Waukegan at the time, and that's how we cooked this stuff on the aquarium smokers. It was hilarious that you mentioned that because it's popped right into my head.
I was thinking the same thing.
Chris Day, Honey One on the south side. They're another good barbecue joint.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's what makes Chicago. I think Chicago for many years has been an unsung city of great barbecue, when Memphis and Nashville and Kansas City generally are the ones that people talk about. But I think Chicago goes way back when, in fact, some of your biggest rib packing houses were in Chicago and Memphis and Kansas City, and all these other towns would get their ribs from Chicago.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. What would you say are distinct? I mean, what would you say the distinct flavors? I think that's why Chicago gets lost, because especially like now, there's a lot of Texas cooks up in restaurants up here, but obviously the Kansas City flair is always. I think that just envelops the whole Midwest. I think But what would you think would be a distinct Chicago flavor to it? Is it just the way it's cooked, or is there a certain flavor that's distinct here?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think the ones that I really like are the ones that use the Chicago aquarium smoker live fire. But then, I think Chicago is really influenced by the Southern blacks that came up from the Mississippi Delta, and they brought their own brands of barbecue sauces. So, if you know the different barbecue joints in Chicago, you rent the range of many different type of barbecue sauces, everything from the really savory, spicy type sauces to some of the vinegary, molasses, brown sugar based sauces. So, I think there's quite the range of sauces in Chicago. But for me, let's clear up, this whole thing of what barbecue is, because, I often come across a lot of people who say, they stick their nose up in the air like there's some sort of barbecue snob, and they say, well, that ain't barbecue, and to me, I think those guys are full of it, because barbecue is really not really about any one type of way of cooking more than it is a lifestyle, a camaraderie, good times, good friends, getting around, whatever it is. because I would tell you, I grew up, from the 50s, knowing what barbecue was in my family because my dad was very insistent about his Southern foods and his barbecue. And it wasn't anything for us to, travel 100 miles to go to a barbecue joint just because my dad had to have his barbecue. So, I grew up being able to take a piece of meat, and whether it was a hole in the ground and just some wood smoldering in a hole in the ground, we'd cook up whole hogs, or chickens. Brisket and beef wasn't so much the thing back then, but we knew how to cook over live fire. That's for sure. And then even, my first smoker was nothing more than a garbage can that I had stuck some rebar across, and there was a hole in the bottom of the garbage can, which I would shovel live embers. And that's how the All-American feast at Famous Dave's got started, where even today we serve the All-American feast on a garbage can lid, because when my ribs or whatever I was smoking up was done, I'd take the lid off and put my ribs on that, and I'd bring it to the table. There you go. That's the Famous Dave's All-American feast served on a garbage can lid.
I mean,
Wow.
it doesn't get any better than that.
I mean, how can you beat a whole rack of ribs, chicken, corn on the cob, barbecue baked beans, coleslaw, and shack fries?
Oh,
Yeah,
There it is. Look at those honey buttered cornbread muffins.
Even our good buddy Roy came in here and said, he goes, "Hey guys, Dave, I missed the restaurant in Oswego. Used to go. That was the same one that I went to all the time too."
Being in the restaurant business is tough, and I think we had up to 200 Famous Daves, and to give you an idea, when I started in 1994, there were very few barbecue joints that were using a real pit, because at the time my biggest competitors were Tony Roma's and Damon's, and they all baked their ribs. And to me that was okay. I a lot of people say, well, that ain't barbecue, they baked their ribs. Well, let me tell you something. As serious as my dad was about having real pit smoked ribs, I would tell you that my mom, who worked all day, from the north side of Chicago, would have to catch a bus. Then she'd catch an L train, go downtown, work all day, and she would come home. And my dad have to have home cooked meals every night. My dad was an electrician, construction worker, and he just, we had home cooked meals every day. And if my mom wanted to boil ribs and bake them in the oven and slather them with some store-bought barbecue sauce, that was barbecue. So I'll challenge anybody that, I come from a family that knew how to smoke meats in a pit or whatever. And if my mom made some, boiled ribs and baked them in an oven with store-bought sauce, and that was barbecue, that was barbecue. So
nobody argues with mom, though.
Nobody's going to argue with
nobody argues with mom.
I do want to say, though, since you said
it was tasty and it was delicious. So, like I said, I think barbecue, we have to get off these high horses of telling somebody, well, that ain't barbecue. Look, if you like it, if your family enjoys it and you're having a good time, that's barbecue. Because barbecue is just having a good time with family and friends, whether it came out of a boiling pan or a baked pan, or whether it was over a pit or offset smoker. That's okay. That's okay. It's all about if you're having a good time with your family and friends, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what barbecue is all about.
We definitely say that a lot here on the show, is barbecue is family. And I mean, it's barbecue was bought, unfortunately, me and Steve together, and it's brought us to this point here. So, I mean, it's just getting together and being with your friends and enjoying yourself. And yes, Steve, I consider you a friend. But
Well, I was just gonna say you can't, unfortunately you can't pick your barbecue friends, but I did get lucky with Ryan, I guess. I mean, he
You,
is a nice guy.
while I have a public forum here, the one thing I would hope is some of these contests have gotten to the point where there's no distinction of what the regionalities of barbecue is. And I've judged some of the biggest, Memphis and May, the American Royal, uh, you name it. I've judged it. The Jack Daniels, I've judged that for almost 16, 18 years going back, and uh, I really like the World Food Championships these days, where people are really getting to express their originality and their creativity. Because I think some of my greatest disappointments, like in some of these big contests, is that you have some of the world's best barbecue pit masters, and then you even have traveling teams coming from overseas, and then every box of turn-in boxes, they all look the same, they all taste the same, and that I think is a tragedy, because we're missing what barbecue is all about. We're missing the personality of the different regions, or even the different pit masters. Because even myself, I often get asked by people, they'll say, Dave, how can you go to all these different other barbecue joints, and you're very open and putting on your Facebook that you've been to this barbecue joint and you like what they do, and I say, I like what I created, but I also respect and like what other barbecue pit masters do, because everybody has their own interpretation of different type of woods that they use, different methods of smoking up meats, or whatever, however they want to cook it. And then you have all the different rubs. You have all the different barbecue sauces. And that's where I think some of these contests have really lost out, where everything just looks the same and tastes the same. And, a lot of America's most legendary barbecue joints with some of America's most legendary pit masters could never win at any of these contests.
Yeah. Do you think that comes from because I'm in complete 100% agree with you, and amen to everything you just said, because I think a lot, you see that in a lot of competitions. It's starting out, I think of the SCA, and I don't want anybody from the SCA to get mad at me, but you kind of saw that originality in the beginning, but then you find out somebody who's winning, and then you find out that the judges like this flavor, and then this, and now it's almost, everybody's almost using the same rubs, the same seasonings, the same things, that there's no originality to it. Does that come from, do you think a part of that though is how the judges are taught as to what flavor is supposed to taste like? And because I hear that from people all the time, that if they turn in something too spicy, it's not good. But if it's good barbecue and it's a little bit spicy, that shouldn't be a disqualification or
right
points off.
I think that we have to open up where, what I like about the World Food Championships these days is that anything goes. And we're seeing some really original turn-ins where, they come on a silver platter, and you might have a pig's head, you might have pig's feet on there, and it gets crazy. But, we are seeing some really neat stuff, like some Mexican type barbecue, where you have the different type of side dishes all mixed in, and that I love, and you can really get to see what people are eating in different regions, rather than everything come across in a styrofoam box on parsley or lettuce. And I think that allows people to get really a flavor what barbecue in America, or even what barbecue in other countries, looks and tastes like.
Ryan, Michelle O'Gwin, I know she does a lot with the judging in Memphis and May, but she's got an answer to to what I was just talking about, and that's because judges can't differentiate between subjective judging and comparative judging. So,
well, I think that has to be rethought, because then again you're almost putting qualifications on what something has to look like. And I would tell you, I've judged enough contests where I don't think that matters anymore. I think if you're able to see something that just floors you because of the originality, even though you could tell where it comes from, I don't think that matters, because we're starting to see stuff that really wows you. And I think that's where we need to go in the future for all barbecue contests, because I think subjective and whatever, your qualitative or whatever the words are, there is none of that when everything looks the same and tastes the same. What is the purpose in that? And like I said, you're getting these weekend barbecue warriors that are all doing the same thing, and what we're missing out is what some of the legendary barbecue regions, some of the most legendary barbecue joints and legendary pit masters could never win any of the contests.
yeah, she responded there, Ryan, with the. You see it down there?
Yeah. Comparative judging puts qualifications, like he is saying, where subjective should have any qualifications, like he is trying to say. Sorry, should not. Should
well,
not.
Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that I think the future of barbecue has to be interesting. It has to be able to highlight the different regions, and we have to allow pitmasters to explore their creativity and what they think. They're let them turn in something that maybe their community really loves. And I think that's when things get really interesting, and however they want to display it.
Yeah, since Steve brought it up earlier, that's the nice part about the griddle battle, which I know you haven't really heard of yet, but that's the newest thing coming out, is all flat top cookings, but with not the same four things every time. So yeah, that's the new upcoming contest.
Yeah, and I think when you get that, what you're seeing is the originality of what makes America so great in the different regions, and what people love in their particular, wherever they come from.
Well, Ryan, in your contest though, Ryan, you got a category for originality, do you not, or did you have, or creativity or something? Or
creativity is one of the judging categories. Yes. So like Dave, I founded the griddle battle. It's same thing as a barbecue contest, but it's all on flat top griddles. So I've got one coming up here in September. It's a breakfast category. So I mean anything breakfast.
Yeah.
It's a copycat category. So you're copying a recipe from somebody else, a Crunchwrap Supreme, a Big Mac burger, a Whopper, anything like that. And then a dessert category. So it's kind of just like the anything goes categories, but it's all on flat top cooking.
Yeah, and they're free to do whatever they want. I mean, they're not looking to, at this point in time with it, nobody's looking to meet a certain flavor profile, which to me is, I think what like Dave is saying, I think, when you have people, and you've been to the classes we've had at Wanamakers, and I've had a bunch of different pit masters in, and almost every single one of them will tell you they don't serve the barbecue at home that they cook in a competition. And I hate to tell you, I want to taste the barbecue that they're cooking at home, because everybody already is going to know what their competition barbecue is going to taste like the next person, except it may be a little juicier or a little one bite better or whatever. But I want to taste the barbecue they're cooking at home. That's what I want to judge.
And I want to get away where people say, well, that isn't, I make a competition barbecue rib. To me, that doesn't hold any water. And the same thing, the competition ribs you could never serve in a restaurant. You know, I probably won, you know, I used to have a NASCAR traveling rib team. We never went to some of these uh, judging contests where you know you spend 3 days on one rack of ribs, 3 days on one piece of chicken, and 3 days on one brisket or pork butt. You know, the contests we went to were the big ones, like Best of the West in Reno, where 500,000 people would show up, and you know the judges would come to your stand. They'd look in your smoker and they'll point and say, "I want that rack of ribs and that rack of ribs." And you know, you're not sitting there with scalpels and paintbrushes and trying to make the you know, and you don't even do that in your backyard. So why does that have to win first place? So,
I laugh at that because first
and then let me
go ahead.
And then the most meaningful contests that we won were People's Choice, where 10,000 people would put in their vote. That to me is real competition and real judging.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yep.
No, I was going to say I laugh at that because I think the first KCBS competition that I was at, I was out there with a Q-tip cleaning off little pieces on the bone. So no way ever before I got into that.
They'll take a chicken skin, pull it off, take and scrape all the fat off, and then jacquard it full of a million little holes, then take meat paste and paste it back on a chicken. What the hell is that?
It's got to look nice, Dave. It's got to look nice.
Well, you know, the thing is, yeah, you could take a one bite and bite right through it. But I'll tell you what, I can take a chicken, put it on a grill, flame kiss it, and I'll get a crispy piece of chicken skin with a real tasty, smoky chicken that you'll die and think you've gone to heaven with my crispy, smoky chicken that you can take one bite right through the skin, and it's not slimy like it's not slimy, but it's crispy and it's still one bite tender.
Yeah, I agree.
I do want to back up real quick. Jeff Gallo came in here and said when Yorktown Shopping Center in Lombard had the Famous Dave's, that's where his son got hooked on barbecue. He's probably 4 years old at the time. Couldn't get enough of the pulled pork.
Yeah. You know, I would say, you know, being in business is tough. We had close to 200 restaurants. I think we have 120 today because we lost a lot during COVID. And, you know, it's tough being in the restaurant business. But, you know, the one thing that I think about the Famous Dave's is it took me 20 years working on my recipes before I even opened up my first restaurant. And the first restaurant was in Hayward, Wisconsin, a town of only 2,000 people. And when I was building my restaurant, people would drive by and they say, "Dave, what are you doing?" And I'd tell them, "I'm building a rib joint." And they would laugh and they would say, "Are you crazy? Hayward, Wisconsin? There ain't nothing but Swedes and Norwegians up here. They don't have the first clue about barbecue. You should go down to Memphis or Kansas City." Well, I had a dream and I kept building my rib joint. And in a little town of only 2,000 people, by the end of that first year, I'm serving over 6,000 people a week. And they were driving hundreds of miles just to come there and eat. So, you know, and for me today, I think the real testament is that my barbecue products, my retail, my sauces, my seasonings, my rubs, and my pickles, you know, a lot of people don't know, but my hot, spicy, sweet pickles revolutionized the whole pickle industry to the point where we will probably be the number one pickle company in America. And all of my barbecue products, we're in over 35,000 retail outlets in the United States. Wow. So, I think I've proven myself not only competitively. We have over 800 Best of Class awards. We've won, close to $1 million in competitions. And, and my products are in almost every major grocery store in America, plus Walmart, Sam's Club. So, from somebody that started, my first barbecue or my first restaurant was really nothing more than, the American dream come true, humble beginnings, because back in the late 60s or mid 60s, 70s, I used to help my mom set up an Indian fry bread stand where we were selling my dad's smoky roasted venison in Indian fry bread that we would sell at Indian powwows. So if you were to see a picture of our Indian fry bread stand that was nothing more than wood saplings with a tarp over it, and we were cooking over live fire, and to see that Famous Dave's came from such humble beginnings, I really believe that the Famous Dave story is nothing more than the American dream, proving that if you got a dream and if you can never ever quit, that in this great country anything is possible.
Yeah.
I can say on behalf of myself, and I don't know how many others of thousands and thousands of people, we're glad that you had a dream.
Well, I think, I think what Famous Dave's has done, a lot of people, when I moved to Minneapolis from Hayward to open up my first barbecue joint in a major city, there was 3 other barbecue joints in Minneapolis. You had Rudolph's, Market Barbecue, and Ted Cook's, a little storefront black-owned barbecue joint. But Rudolph's and Marketplace were well known in the Twin Cities. And when I said that I was going into the Twin Cities, people said, "Oh, you're going to put those guys out of business." And I said, "I hope not, because I like what they do." And I really believe that Famous Dave's has helped open up the marketplace for any barbecue restaurant, because today there are over 60 barbecue joints in the Twin Cities. And I think, I'm very fond of saying that I think when we come into a city, we help, what do they say? When one ship rises, all ships rise.
Right. Yeah. What made you, it's curious that you were in Hayward, and you said that Minneapolis was your first major place. Why it just doesn't seem like a way to barbecue go? You know what I'm saying? It's
well,
I thought you would maybe go to Chicago from Hayward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Hayward, Wisconsin was where my mom was from, and I just wanted to open up a restaurant there, and like I've often said, barbecue is not doesn't belong just to Memphis or Kansas City or Nashville. I think any city in America where you have people, if they're lighting up a fire in their backyard or whatever they want to do, and that's barbecue. So barbecue is really an American pastime. Barbecue is how America celebrates. Barbecue is America's food.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of all your Native American heritage, I thought I remember a post a while back. It might have been a year or 2 or 3 ago, but you're in the Native American Hall of Fame, I believe.
One of them, I was inducted, for my entrepreneurial pursuits, for Famous Dave's, plus a good friend of mine, Steve Schussler. I wrote the first check to help get Rainforest Cafe started. But besides Famous Dave's, I've helped other restaurants and been an investor in almost 65 other restaurants. And so, I think the story of Famous Dave's, not just the restaurants, but my own story, because I was like the dumbest kid in class growing up. I had, I always tell people I was in the bottom half of the class that made the top half possible. And, and sometimes people would say, "Dave, I was
Oh,
I was in your shoes because it seems like everything you touch turns to gold, and I tell them, I say, I don't think you have any idea what you just said. First of all, I don't think you want to work like I work. I don't think you want to fail like I failed in life. I don't think you want the problems of what I've had to face. But the one thing that I've come to understand is that in this great country, if you just don't give up, anything's possible. In fact, one of my favorite sayings today is, you can't stop a man who won't quit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Speaking of, I did see a post on your page and I saw that you are 29 years free. So God bless you and congratulations and good work and good job and continued success on that front.
Well, I've enjoyed. I've got nothing against booze. I mean, after all, Jesus's first miracle was to turn water into wine. But I think in my life, I had almost a whole different meaning to getting sauced, and fortunately, after the first year of Famous Dave's, my wife and I'm very open about this because anybody in the restaurant business knows that alcohol abuse and addiction is one of the toughest things that we face in business today. And I think my being open about the need to get sober has helped many others because, for some of us, I think we partied a little bit too much. And if it wasn't for my wife who said, Dave, you can't go on this way. And she put me into treatment. It was a life-changing moment, something that I'm not embarrassed about. And because, one of the things I've learned is that so many times when we go through life, even with our kids, we don't want our kids to face the adversity of life. But really, I don't think you can be successful without failure. And we should never be embarrassed about our failures because I think it's in the depths of adversity that you learn how to get better. And when your mind churns, because as an entrepreneur with two young kids back in the earlier days, I knew that I had to figure out how I was going to put food on the table by the end of that day. I couldn't depend on a job where I had a weekly paycheck coming in. I had to make everything work every day. And so even though I wasn't good in school, and it wasn't until years later that I found out that I had ADHD. And back when I was going to school back in the 60s and 70s, they didn't know what that word was. You were just a bad kid. But once they determined I had ADHD, it explained a lot why I bounced off the walls. I think my story is one of adversities and tough times and having to get sober. Fortunately, I had a wife who stayed with me and always believed in me. And I think the one thing that I done in life is I never did give up. And and I do think that I do have a gift. I'm probably one of the few people in America. I've been in thousands of barbecue joints, as everyone knows. I can almost tell you what every barbecue sauce tastes like. So I never forget a flavor, which I think is my God giftedness. And people will often say, wow, how can you do that? I can't explain it other than it is a God gift, which is no different than a musical prodigy that can remember every tune they've ever heard. I just happen to remember every flavor, and I can pretty much taste anything today, and I can tell you what's in it. And within 2 hours or 20 minutes, I can pretty much replicate that recipe.
Wow. Well, then not only that, then you got into, I got these sent to me a while back when I reached out to Dave a long time ago. And it's a nicely signed and autographed and everything in there. Look at that. See?
Yeah.
Nice little note and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. My life's for success. So once I figured out that if I was going to be a dumb kid, I something I needed to put the, as Zig Ziglar, one of America's most motivational speakers, said, every day you got to put the pure, the clean, the powerful, and the positive in your mind. And so I learned that back in 1971 when I had the chance to take one of Zig Ziglar's Born to Win courses. And one of the things he said was that the world is filled with such negativity that if you're going to succeed in life, it's just like bathing. You know, you don't bathe once in a while. You've got to bathe every day. And so every day you almost have to bathe your mind in putting the positive, the pure, the powerful into your mind. So every day, every time I got in my car, I had a cassette tape of something that was inspiring, something that was motivational, something that would put the pure, the clean, the powerful, positive in my mind. So I never really looked at my car as transportation more than it was my university on wheels. And so I really believe that when really things got tough, I never whined and complained. Instead, I'd get in my car and I put on something positive, and it picked me back up, and we went back after it. And then when we did fail, well, we never let that hold us back. And so today, for a while, I was running around the country when people wanted me to share my entrepreneurial story. I would often ask, well, how many of you have ever taken a course called Success 101? And almost nobody ever raised their hand. But today, I run around the country and say, how many of you have ever taken a course called Failure 101? Because it's the failure in life that I really believe is what allows you to gain wisdom. Because just success skills aren't going to get you through life. You have to know that failure is part of the learning process, because as an entrepreneur, if you're not out there doing something you've never done before, going to places you have never gone before, you're not going to be successful every time. And so, failure is good, especially if you're pushing yourself to go someplace you've never gone before. And you should never, ever be embarrassed by failure.
Exactly, Ryan.
I forgot I was even on the show, like sitting here. I'm just like so locked in right now.
I know.
48 minutes that we've gone through now already. And I'm just like,
well, let me, that book you held up, let me share with you how that book got started. So what you have there is a book of paragraphs. And what those were was when I was listening to my motivational, inspiring stuff on cassette tape or CDs. And by the way, if you go to nightingale.com or, Nightingale, it takes you to a site where you have it's the world's largest seller of motivational, inspiring speakers and books and tapes and CDs and audio stuff. And so I always encourage everybody that, where else can you get positive stuff today? You can't get it from the radio. You're not going to find it on TV. And many families are poor role models for success stories. And so I started carrying a yellow pad or notebook in my car. And every time when I was listening to my CDs or my tapes in my car, I would write down something inspiring so that I would memorize it. And then people would always see me carrying around this legal pad or notebook with all of these things in it. And they say, Dave, what are you writing? And I'd say, well, here, take a look. And when they look at my notebook, and they would say, Dave, this is pretty inspiring. This is pretty positive stuff. Can I take this home and copy it? And I tell them, no, that's my stuff. And I was afraid to lose it. So what I would do is I would go to Kinko's back at the time, and I would take my notes and I would Xerox it, and I would come away with hundreds of pages of Xerox notes. And finally, it dawned on me that this was getting expensive, because if you Xerox off a couple hundred pages, and I would make 100 of these notebooks at a time, and then I would bind them and put a cover on them. It was costing me $40 every time I was just for one of these, and if I did 100 of them, that was like $4,000. So, and I would give them out. And today, some of those notebooks are almost collector's pieces. But then finally, it dawned on me, I should just make a book out of this stuff. It'd be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And by the way, I really believe that my life's higher purpose today is to be a positive difference in the lives of other people. And so that's why, I'll have a competitor barbecue joint, and a lot of them will tell you that if I've been in their barbecue joint, I often draw a little pig and say, I love your barbecue, Famous Dave's. And they can't believe that I did that. But you'll see some of these things on people's walls. And people will ask me, Dave, I'm starting a barbecue business, and I'll share with them whatever I know to help them.
I get it. Well, as famous Dave is, and all the stuff he's done, Ryan, I got a picture there of Dave doing some work at the pizza place. I took one of those off of your. Yeah, he still rolls the napkins.
Let me tell you a story about that. I was rolling silverware, and one of the employees came by and they said, Dave, are you tired of rolling silverware? Let me tell you something. Long time ago, when I started my first business, I learned that it's doing the repetitive, the mundane, the monotonous is what makes you successful in life. But let me tell you another thing. Every one of these rolled silverware bundles, I don't look as something that, oh God, I hate to roll silverware. I actually look at it as a blessing and joy, because every one of these rolled silverwares is somebody who eats my food is going to be happy. They are going to feel blessed that they were able to eat my great tasting food. It made them happy. It brought a blessing into their life. And so I tell my people, I said, look at every one of these rolled silverwares. They're nothing but bundles of joy, and they bring blessings into people's lives. So this bucket that you saw in that picture of rolled silverware, that's nothing but a bucket of joy and blessings. See that bucket, a big bucket of rolled silverware?
That's a bunch of happiness there.
That's a bucket of happiness, joy, and blessings.
Jeez Louises. Well,
yeah, Terry's got it right. He says Dave has a story for everything. I could listen to him all day. I would
totally agree.
Yes. We could go for a couple hours tonight. I'm fine. We can just sit there.
Yeah, well, we'll have to do another. We'll have to have Dave on again, Ryan, because I know we're almost at an hour. But what are you up to? I mean, I do see you get around. I mean, I did have a picture. I was going to put a picture up of Obie's Pizza because I saw that you had that on there. Yeah, of the pizza, because I'm a pizza junkie too. If it ain't barbecue, it's pizza. What's your favorite? Is that your favorite pizza place in Chicago, or what's your favorite pizza place in Chicago?
What a lot of people may not know is that, like I said, I started trying to figure out how to make great tasting barbecue back when I was a teenager. But growing up in Chicago, which is a great pizza joint, a lot of great pizza joints, I also was always striving to make a great pizza. And so back where the original Famous Dave's got started in Hayward, Wisconsin, today we have a winery and farm pizza with our world famous chicken tenders. Who knows, one of these days I might open up a pizza joint. I might open up a chicken joint, because really the Famous Dave's got started because of my dad's love for fried chicken. And I make some great, tasty, crispy chicken.
I'd vote for the fried chicken place.
I was gonna say the fried chicken, but you know what I really loved every single time I went to Famous Dave's? The Sweetwater catfish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't make good fried chicken. When I was a little boy, my mom, in order to get us out of the city of Chicago, because I can remember back in the late 50s and 60s, we used to have days where it'd be over 100 degrees, like 10 days in a row. And to get us out of that hot sun, and you could just look out your window and see the heat rising off of the concrete and the asphalt. My mom would put us on the Sioux Line Railroad, and it would take almost all night to go through Wisconsin and Illinois and all these little small towns. And then we get to Spooner, Wisconsin, like 5 a.m. when the sun was just coming up. And then somebody in an old beat up car would take us down dusty gravel roads to my mom's reservation, where we lived in a little 3-room shack. No running water, no electricity, no heat. I used to have chopped wood. And then when we would get eggs or milk, I'd have to go to the well. And we had like a big long rope with a bucket. And the bucket would go down into the depths of the well where it was really cool. And I'd pull that up, and, that's how we would cook. But I think, my ADHD just kicked in. I have no clue what I was talking about. What started this?
Sweetwater catfish. And
the
Sweetwater
catfish. Sweetwater catfish was. So we would go fish at one of the local lakes in Wisconsin, and my mom, we thought we were lucky when we'd get enough change and we could go buy a little round tin of eagle claw hooks, because we all knew those were the best fish hooks. And we'd fish at the drop off, and we couldn't afford even stringers back then. And my mom would always cut a sapling, and we would string our little sunnies and our crappies and bluegills on that, come home and fry up some of the best tasting panfish. And so we always knew how to make great tasting fish. And my dad had to have his catfish from being from the South. And so when we started Famous Dave's, I made, this, what I called my Sweetwater catfish, along with my Southern remoulade sauce. And then I even had a jalapeno sweet and sour sauce. Oh my God, that was good tasting food.
Oh my God. Well, you just blew the mind of every young kid in the whole world, because they wouldn't have any idea of chopping wood and having no running water and any of that stuff.
In an outhouse.
In an outhouse. But yeah, I've deployed with OBR, so I've done the porta potty thing for weeks on end. So I've got that. But Operation Barbecue Relief really speaks to my heart. We've over the years we've been a big supporter back in the earlier days. But way back when Famous Days first got started, I remember a tornado or hurricane. What is it? Hurricane, tornadoes, I think, right? Is it on land? But tornado.
One tornado swept through the little town of Siren, Wisconsin, which wasn't too far from Hayward. And I called my team up that very night. I said, whatever you do, stop, please. Go to your stores. We're going to smoke up all night, pork butts. I called my suppliers. I said, give me every hamburger bun you can get. I called my beverage distributor. I said, I want all the pop. I want all the bottled water you can get. We're loading up, because my rib team, I had like a NASCAR rib team. I think I said that before. We had a 52-foot trailer. We had smokers on flatbed trailers. We had reefer trucks. I mean, we used to be able to feed 10,000 people a day at a rib contest. And so we were good at being able to feed large amounts of people fast. And so we traveled the next morning. We were able to feed the whole town. We fed all the FEMA workers, the Red Cross workers, the sheriffs, the police departments, and people couldn't believe that we could mobilize that fast. And so over the years, even before Operation Barbecue Relief got started, Famous Dave's always was first at the scene of any of these natural disasters. And, I feel very fortunate that the good Lord blessed us with great tasting barbecue. And, I've always learned from my dad, who was a very God fearing, Bible reading, prayer believing, flag waving U.S. veteran, that if you don't give back, you're clogging up the pipes. And so we've always been a giver of and being able to help those in need.
Wow. Well, Dave, it's been an hour already, believe it or not. I mean, wow. That's all I can say.
I really don't have anything to say. I know you talked about 1994.
We can close like this because I got a lot to say, and I want to thank you guys for all you do for helping make the world a happier tasting place. I just want to encourage all of you guys. Again, barbecue is a fun thing. It's America's food. It's how we celebrate. And, if you want to have a good time, you always tell your friends and family, hey, you guys, why don't you come over to my place this Friday? Because we are going to have a backyard
barbecue,
right? So may you always be surrounded by good friends, great tasting barbecue. I love you guys. This is a great country. Barbecue is a great way to celebrate. This is Famous Dave, wishing you all the very best. God bless.
Thanks, Dave. If you're ever in Chicago, look me up. We'll hang out.
I will.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
Love you guys.
See you, Dave. Thanks for coming on. You can get him on. There you go. Wow. I saw you chilling back there in your chair, Ryan. You were watching the lecture. That was amazing. I mean, we didn't even get comments. Everybody was just busy listening to the wisdom and the positivity. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a bunch of comments that I missed them, and guys, I'm sorry for missing them this week, but that was just, I really got nothing.
That's one of the greats of barbecue right there.
I know that was, and if you're not here live, go watch the whole thing again. Like, I don't know how many times I hit because like in StreamYard, if you hit B so like Steve and I know, but for those of you who don't need, you hit the B button on your keyboard and it bookmarks a little spot. I don't know how many times I hit that during this hour.
Definitely one of the great shows. I wish if you can, if you guys liked it, share it out so more people can watch some of these shows.
I agree.
That's pretty much.
Too. I mean, I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have once the Griddle Battle gets a little bit bigger, we'll get them as a sponsor.
Yeah, we'll get them as a sponsor. That's kind of what the whole thing, it's kind of going after guests. Everybody's always asking what kind of thing the show is. The kind of the idea behind the Thursday night barbecue chat, having been on a lot of deployments and sitting around listening to the barbecue stories, that's pretty much what the barbecue chat is intended to be. Yes, there will be questions from Ryan or I just to prod things along or to dig deeper into something. But a show like tonight is the epitome of what the chat's supposed to be. Questions here and there, but it's just like people sitting around and shooting the poop, talking about barbecue, and wow, shooting the poop. Yeah, I don't want to swear like Mr. Juan Silva from when we had him on the show that one time. But and that's what the chat's all about. So I mean, you're going to get some of the bigger names in barbecue will be here next week. Hopefully, it's not one of the bigger names, but one of the local restaurants in town, working with hopefully having Eddie Nero on, and he is with Big Ed's up in Waukegan. It's a restaurant up here in the Chicago area, which may be a future barbecue love stop coming up if Ryan wants to drive that far. I know he gets a little.
Well, it's like Roy said. I was talking earlier, and another comment that I missed, but it just got carried away. That's why Barbecue Love Tour is so much fun, because we get to try barbecue at many different places.
Yeah, many different flavors, but yeah, Eddie's got Big Ed's got great ribs. I do love his ribs. So if you're up in that Waukegan area, actually, somebody was just in. I think John from Schmack I think he was in. He was just up there recently at Big Ed's, and he said he waited, which I'm hoping we won't have to, but he said he waited like an hour to get the food because the line was so long, and that just tells you. I hate to tell you, if you go to a barbecue place at a busy time and there's nobody sitting at the tables and there's nobody in some kind of a line, that's probably telling you something. So if you're going to a place that has a very long line, it is probably worth the wait to go eat.
Just seen them. They were down in Morris at the Morris River Blues Barbecue Fest.
What's that, Big Ed's?
Schmack Q.
Oh, Schmack Q. Yeah, no, they were down there in Morris. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see them and Brian Weiss and Scotty Parkins. Yeah.
Yeah. So no date yet on next month's where we're going to be for Barbecue Love Tour. Probably going to be in August. I don't think July is going to work out. I got to work next week again. So August will probably be when we will crack something off for Barbecue Love Stop. But all I can tell you is I am big on barbecue family and I hate to tell you, the Barbecue Love Stops, not only is it there now to help the restaurants out, a lot of them are doing quite well, but it's nice just to get with the local barbecue family and just hang out and talk and pick on each other. And that's basically what they've become, more of a meetup than, we're helping the restaurant out, but it's just nice to see everybody. So I highly recommend if anybody's in the area when we do these, or even if you have to travel a little bit, it's worth it once a month or every other month. It's nice to get to see everybody and talk. So that's all I got to say for this week, Ryan.
All right, that totally made me think of Forrest Gump. He just ended and he said, "That's all I have to say about that."
That's all I have to say about that. And boom, he was gone like that.
Yeah. I wish we could have just ended the show right off of Dave's little thing. It just been done.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
No, I'm not. See, this is where we get to pick on each other. But it's all.
Thanks, Ryan. My words of wisdom just aren't like Dave's, but I could completely understand. I could completely understand that. Wow. I'm still in amazement of that show. I can't wait to get tomorrow I might not even wait till tomorrow to start cutting this show up to post, to get ready for posting stuff.
My bookmarks.
I don't know if I can see your bookmarks. I don't even know how to bookmark. Ryan's the only one who knows how to bookmarks works.
Okay.
So anyway.
Yeah. So
with that,
but yeah, it's been a fun show, guys. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. However, 2 weeks, I won't be here again.
Oh, 2 weeks and that's when we got Sonny and Michelle battling it out to see who's going to be. I gotta find a co-host.
Yeah,
maybe I'll reach out to Mike. Oh, son of a gun! We almost made it. And Steve, if you wouldn't have, if you wouldn't have kept talking,
I wasn't going to bring it up. Then you said them battling out, so I just had to throw it out there.
If Steve wouldn't have kept talking, the show would have been over 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And the burger for the first week ever in like 4 months, 3 months, or whatever it is, would not have been shown on the dang TV.
Well, and don't forget, if you guys are here, if you've made it through the whole hour, 8 minutes, and 40 seconds, barbecueproshop.com, use code chat10 for 10% off your orders of $10 or more. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Guys. Have a good week. Be safe. Be kind to everybody. Be nice, especially this year. Everybody be a little respectful of each other's differences. Wow, just everybody's differences. Everybody's different. God, let's be happy. Everybody's different. All right, everybody.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.